Welcome back. We are on page 147 when we are starting part 2 of chapter 8. We're about 2/3 of the way down the bottom, and I'm going to do a quick look back over what we've read so far in the first part of the chapter. That I've noticed Harry is feeling very negatively towards Snape. It appears if Snape is trying to make Harry's life and class quite difficult. Snape was ignoring Hermione's quivering hand. "What is the difference, Potter, between monkshood and wolfsbane?" At this, Hermione stood up, her hand stretching towards the dungeon ceiling. "I don't know," said Harry quietly. "I think Hermione does, though. Why don't you try her?" A few people laughed. Harry caught Seamus's eye and Seamus winked. Snape, however, was not pleased. "Sit down," he snapped at Hermione. "For your information, Potter, Asphodel and Wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the Draught of Living Death. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat, and it will save you from most poisons. As for monkshood and wolfsbane, they are the exact same plant, which also goes by the name of aconite. Well, why aren't you copying that all down?" There was a sudden rummaging for quills and parchment. "Over the noise," Snape said. "And a point will be taken from Gryffindor House for your cheek, Potter." Things didn't improve for the Gryffindors. As the potions lesson continued, Snape put them all into pairs and set them to mixing up a simple potion to cure boils. He swept around in his long black cloak, watching them weigh dried nettles and crush snake fangs, criticising almost everyone except Malfoy, whom he seemed to like. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs when clouds of acid green smoke and a loud hissing filled the dungeon. Neville had somehow managed to melt Seamus's cauldron into a twisted blob, and their potion was seeping across the stone floor, burning holes in people's shoes. Now at this point I'm starting to get a very good impression of the character of Neville and very much what he's like, his capabilities, and I am predicting in the future that things are not going to improve for him. He's going to continue being perhaps what I'd call a bit of a silly sausage, struggling with a lot of things. So see if there's a character that you can pay attention to during this chapter and think about what they have been like and think about a prediction for them about maybe how their character will continue, how their character will change. Within seconds, the whole class was standing on their stools while Neville, who had been drenched in the potion when the cauldron collapsed, moaned in pain as angry red boils sprang up all over his arms and legs. "Idiot boy!" snarled Snape, clearing the spilled potion away with one wave of his wand. "I suppose you added the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron off the fire." Neville whimpered as boils started to pop up all over his nose. "Take him to the hospital wing!" Snape spat at Seamus. Then he rounded on Harry and Ron, who had been working next to Neville. "You, Potter! Why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if he got it wrong, did you? That's another point you've lost for Gryffindor." This was so unfair that Harry opened his mouth to argue, but Ron kicked him behind their cauldron. "Don't push it," he muttered. "I've heard Snape can turn very nasty." As they climbed the steps out of the dungeon an hour later, Harry's mind was racing and his spirits were low. He'd lost 2 points for Gryffindor in his very first week. Why did Snape hate him so much? "Cheer up," said Ron. Snape's always taking points off Fred and George. Can I come and meet Hagrid with you?" At 5 to 3, they left the castle and made their way across the grounds. Hagrid lived in a small wooden house on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. A crossbow and a pair of galoshes were outside the front door. So if you are not sure of the vocabulary word galoshes, have a think. We certainly do not call them galoshes in Australia. But once again, think how much do you think the importance of the word galoshes will be for the rest of the text. So once again, I will research it if I think it will mean a lot later in the book. Otherwise, if I don't think it is an important fact, it's just part of setting the scene and helping me visualise, I'll move on to reading. And if it comes up again later, I'll research it then. When Harry knocked, they heard a frantic scrabbling from inside and several booming barks. Then Hagrid's voice rang back, saying, "Back, Fang! Back!" Hagrid's big hairy face appeared in the crack as he pulled the door open. "Hang on," he said. "Back, Fang!" He let them in, struggling to keep a hold on the collar of an enormous black boarhound. There was only one room inside. Hams and pheasants were hanging from the ceiling, and a copper kettle was boiling on the open fire, and in the corner stood a massive bed with a patchwork quilt over it. So that's helping you take a moment, close your eyes, visualise how Hagrid's one-room house looks. "Make yourselves at home," said Hagrid, letting go of Fang, who bounded straight at Ron and started licking his ears. Like Hagrid, Fang was clearly not as fierce as he looked. "This is Ron," Harry told Hagrid, who was pouring boiling water into a large teapot and putting rock cakes onto a plate. "Another Weasley, eh?" said Hagrid, glancing at Ron's freckles. "I spent half me life chasing your twin brothers away from the forest." The rock cakes almost broke their teeth, but Harry and Ron pretended to be enjoying them as they told Hagrid all about their first lessons. So think about all the times you have pretended to not hurt someone's feeling. It's a very important skill to learn in life. Fang rested his head on Harry's knee and drooled all over his robes. Harry and Ron were delighted to hear Hagrid call Filch that old git. "And as for that cat, Mrs. Norris, I'd like to introduce her to Fang sometime. Do you know, every time I go up to the school, she follows me everywhere. Can't get rid of her. Filch puts her up to it." Harry told Hagrid about Snape's lesson. Hagrid, like Ron, told Harry not to worry about it, that Snape liked hardly any of the students. "But he seemed to really hate me." "Rubbish," said Hagrid. "Why would he?" Yet Harry couldn't help thinking that Hagrid didn't quite meet his eyes when he said that. So what would that be a sign of if he didn't quite meet his eyes? That slight looking away motion when you're telling someone something. "How's your brother Charlie?" Hagrid asked Ron. "I liked him a lot. Great with animals." Harry wondered if Hagrid had changed the subject on purpose. While Ron told Hagrid all about Charlie's work with dragons, Harry picked up a piece of paper that was lying on the table under the tea cosy. It was a cutting from the Daily Prophet. "Gringotts break-in latest. Investigations continue into the break-in at Gringotts on 31st of July, widely believed to be the work of dark wizards or witches unknown. Gringotts goblins today insisted that nothing had been taken. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied that same day. But we're not telling you what was in there, so keep your noses out of it if you know what's good for you," said a Gringotts spokesgoblin this afternoon. Harry remembered Ron telling him on the train that someone had tried to rob Gringotts, but Ron hadn't mentioned the date. "Hagrid!" said Harry. "That Gringotts break-in happened on my birthday. It might have been happening while we were there." There was no doubt about it. Hagrid definitely didn't meet Harry's eyes this time. He grunted and offered him another rock cake. Harry read the story again. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied earlier that day. Hagrid had emptied vault 713, if you could call it emptying, taking out that grubby little package. Had that been what the thieves were looking for? And why has Hagrid cut out that newspaper clipping from the Daily Prophet and kept it? Very interesting. So once again, Harry is inferring. So he's picking the little clues he can find and trying to piece it together. As Harry and Ron walked back to the castle for dinner, their pockets weighed down with rock cakes they'd been too polite to refuse, Harry thought that none of the lessons he'd had so far had given him much to think about as tea with Hagrid. Had Hagrid collected that package just in time? Where was it now? And did Hagrid know something about Snape that he didn't want to tell Harry? So at this point, the end of chapter 8 ended with 3 questions. That is when a good reader would pause between each question and actually comprehend them and have a go at answering them in their head. What I would like you to do before you move on to answering the questions for chapter 8 is think about when Ron and Harry first met and how their relationship is travelling along at this time. How is their friendship going? how do they support each other and help each other? How do they work together? And think about how Hermione is in that chapter. Once again, showing that she's keen, showing her leadership skills, trying to impress everyone. And why would she be trying to impress everyone at this point in time? What is her background that could give you some clues as to why she behaves the way she does and why her character is the way it is? And I will see you for chapter 9. Bye!